To the Ann Arbor Human Rights Commission. Kennedy, could you start reading the roll call?
Chair Stambaugh,
Here.
Vice Chair Garber,
Here.
Commissioner Winkler, Commissioner Meadows,
Here.
Commissioner Cohen,
Here.
Commissioner Bond,
Here.
Commissioner Peitzmeyer,
Here.
Commissioner Jackson,
Here.
Councilmember Godzi Edwin, Councilmember Song. We have quorum.
Thank you. Public comment.
Is there anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, no public comment.
Agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Move to
Got a motion?
the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the March minutes.
Move to approve the March minutes or accept them, whatever the proper terminology is.
Second? Discussion? Anybody have any changes, corrections, etc.? If there are none, all in favor?
Aye.
Agenda approved. Following up on outside group work, we do not have either of our city council members present, and they usually speak to this. Both of them are, have important personal business. But one of the things that they mentioned to me was that we need, if we're going to ask for a budget, we need to do that quickly. And I want you to know that I'm planning on doing that. I think there, as our need for outreach increases, our need for the wherewithal to do that well has increased. And it is time to ask for a budget. So I am planning on asking for a very conservative budget for outreach, especially educational materials, posters, flyers, and things like that. We talked about the possibility of improving what we have now. Events, payment for events, for entrance fees, display fees. As we saw before, we don't have even a budget to do that. Transportation to go to other places. I think there's more of a need now than ever for us to be going to events around the state, and that is part of our mission. I do that now, but it really would make a lot more sense for everybody to do some of that. And some transportation ability would be nice. So, just so you know, I'm going to write something up. I'm going to send it out to you quickly and give it to Aisha and Lynn to present as part of the request for budget. Follow up on ongoing HRC work. Were there any questions or any discussion about what I just said? Okay, follow up. Complaints, Judah.
There are no outstanding complaints from 2023, and there are 2 that are in process from 2024. And there were no new, I'm sorry.
There's one in 2023.
Oh, there is one, I'm sorry. There's one still outstanding in 2023. 2024, no new complaints were filed since our last HRC meeting.
Okay. And things are going well, or no questions or problems? Any questions for Judah? And we will move on. Strategic planning effort, Brandon.
Yes, so there's been some updates. So essentially moving forward, there's going to be, I'll just try to go over an overview of what the process will look like now that it's updated. So Keita and I will continue to work together on basically giving a overview of the different commission mandates that we are ordered to uphold overall, and giving an overview of what those documents are, what specifically our tasks are to uphold those mandates, and then giving context and examples around what that looks like, to give us a good foundation and get us all on the same page of what that looks like and what we mean by that type of work. And then based off of that, that will be kind of like the background piece for everyone to use. And then I have a document that I'm still somewhat tweaking and working on, but an individual SWOT analysis will be sent out to each of the commissioners as well. We had initially 3 priority areas, and I expanded it to 4. One specifically just focusing on ordinances, resolutions, our complaint process as well, to give an analysis of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for those categories in particular. So with this document, it'll have information on the background, information on how this information will be used. It will also have the instructions for how to complete the document. It's pretty straightforward. It's just like a SWOT analysis for each of those 4 priority areas. I have questions specifically tailored to each of those priority areas as well, and then example pieces for what to consider or think about as you're going through those questions. It's really important that even if you don't have the background or in response to it, to note that down as well, because that can help identify like if there's certain gaps that we aren't adequately sharing that information, or we're not collecting it in the first place, then we know that that's a goal that we need to make sure that we can fill that gap. So I'm still going to work on that overall to make sure like it's as clear as possible, and share that out with each of the individual commissioners. I asked that each of the individual commissioners complete it and then send it just to me. There was some conversations around trying to keep some sense of privacy as well with responses, so this will hopefully be somewhat of that. And then once I get all this information, I will compile it all, of course, like not attach to any names, synthesize it or reduce it down to prevent just a mumbo jumbo of words and bullet points and everything. And from that point, once it's kind of narrowed down, then we can kind of make some of those strategic goals on how do we maintain our strengths that we have recognized for each of the priority areas, what are goals that we need to overcome weaknesses, for opportunities, what goals do we need to set in place to make sure that we are seeing those opportunities come to fruition, and for threats, what goals do we need to put in place to be more proactive in preventing those threats from taking place. So that will be one of the documents. I also was able to work on the strategic planning feedback survey that will go to the city council members and the city attorney, as we mentioned. So I'll make sure to send that out to everyone as well. It's essentially the same as a SWOT analysis. It has 5 questions in total. Again, just identifying the strengths that they see HRC bringing to the city and Ann Arbor community, areas for improvement that they think HRC should look into, opportunities that they would like us to pursue, and additional barriers or challenges that they think may be coming up that we should be preparing for. Then the 5th question is just if they have any additional thoughts that they want to add, in case those questions don't capture it completely. So based on all of that information too, that'll also go into helping us determine like what some of our goals should be and how we can help to rank or prioritize which goals need the most attention as well too. So once all of that is done, then we will compile it into like a very clear and nice document that will be easy to follow and make sure that we are keeping up to date with those metrics to make sure that we're making progress on it as well. And then again, I still hope to find a way to add that as like a reoccurring bullet point in our agenda, so each month we can make sure that we're still making progress towards those strategic goals, and it's not just something that is left in the dust. We are putting a lot of work into this, so it's good to make sure that we are keeping up to date with it overall. So that's kind of just like an overview of what's to come. Had some delays and everything, but we'll make sure that we get back on track. And I'm hoping to at least make sure that we can get as much information from all of our commissioners that are here, but also soon to be offboarding as well. I'll try my best to make sure that this information gets to everyone as soon as possible to get all the information. But that is right now where things are at, and hopefully the next couple of weeks, everything should be ready to go, and like another revised plan can be pushed out as well too. But if there's any questions or comments, then feel free to let me know.
Could you just say the 4 priority areas again?
Yes, the 4 priority areas are, the first one is ordinances, resolutions, and complaints. The second priority area is commissioner governance and organization. Priority area 3 is communications, which includes outreach and marketing. And then the 4th priority area will be project management. So kind of just like, how do we structure our projects? How do we make sure that we're tracking things? But those are the 4 priority areas.
Do people have questions? We still talking about a strategic planning meeting in April or May?
Definitely not April. Hopefully we can do it in May. I will have to see, I guess like with some of these other developments, it'll kind of depend. But I think we can still try our best to aim for May. I think the only thing that really needs to, I guess like get finalized for the most part is that HRC, our commission, or our mandate document that will just give an overview of all the things that we aim to uphold or we're charged with upholding. So I think once that is finalized, everything else for the most part should basically be ready to go and send out. So hopefully by April or the end of April, I'm hoping we can have all of the feedback from the city council and city attorney, and then also all of the commissioners. I can compile that and then maybe push it to like mid-May to hopefully have that planning session. And I'll make a plan for how to facilitate that as well in the most efficient and quick way possible too.
Any more questions? Thank you. Old business, government ID. Yeah.
Okay. So as folks may recall, we have the City of Ann Arbor, an ordinance that mandates that all government-issued photo ID is equivalent to all other government-issued photo ID, regardless of the state or level of government that issued it, that issued the card. Which is wonderful because Ann Arbor folks can access the Washtenaw County ID, the city of Detroit has the Detroit ID, Kalamazoo County has the Kalamazoo ID, and that's just in this area. It's really, the use of local government ID has exploded because there's so many folks that have been excluded from state IDs and driver's licenses. Well, it's wonderful to have the ordinance, but, you almost have to be a lawyer to find the ordinance and show it to someone who may be questioning, the existence of the law, the requirement to accept it. And now we have a phone-optimized website at local-gov.id that puts the ability to enforce the mandate that City Council provided to folks, puts it right in their hands. It's a phone-optimized site. It pops up immediately and gives people access to both the ordinance, has links, summaries, and it also enables anyone who needs to contact us because their ID has been denied, even though they're showing the ordinance. they can, through the phone optimized site, let us know right away. Go ahead.
Is there any way that website, the URL or whatever, could be put on the back of the ID?
Yes.
That way,
I,
if someone.
yes, I say yes because it's physically possible. I'll have to go and talk with the county clerk and really just talk it through. I think.
Even if it's just a sticker, because
Yeah.
that way, you don't believe me, here, go look up this
Right,
link.
right.
Did you look at it?
I looked at it, it looks
What-
great. And I'm just
Yeah.
thinking it'd be great if, instead of having to remember it or
Yeah,
anything,
true.
if you just have a little,
Then,
a scan code,
Yeah.
or it's right there on the back of your.
That's a great
ID.
idea. I'll start talks sort of immediately and see, how we can do it. But you're right, a sticker would ease even printing problems. Eliminate that as an
Yeah.
issue. Don't have to worry about putting it actually on the car, just put a
Right,
sticker.
a sticker, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because you
Okay,
probably can't
great.
make it officially part of the ID, but, yeah.
Well, I just want to also lift up the folks, members of our community, who actually designed and created the website. In fact, it was their idea to put a phone-optimized site together so that it would be easier for people to access information, easier to make, well, it just makes the card easier to use. So Ryan Heisler, Helen Hagos, and Matt Sholin have been working on this. When I say years, I don't mean two, like over 3 years, because they all work full-time, and full-time, in the tech field is, 60 hours a week. So thank you all. I think they really just show a lot of people ask, how can I help? How can I get involved? And with some creative thought, I really think that they have just demonstrated how you bring your set of skills to the table and think creatively about how and what you can do can benefit folks that, may need some assistance in whatever area and, deliver. And I mean, my goodness, attention span, stamina, commitment, sense of community. They are amazing. And I also want to thank David Minix, Benjamin Foster, and Michael Krebs.
And we need to, before we let this go, at least for our portion of it, we need to pass it by Marky Radabaugh.
Oh, yes.
And I also want to ask you, has everybody seen this app?
Local-gov.id. And I really recommend you pull it up on your phone.
Yeah, but-
Local-gov.id, and I'm just going to keep saying it.
What you should say what it is.
Oh,
I mean, because I
go ahead, keep talking.
keep talking. You want me
You
to
keep
say what it is?
Sure.
What it is an app that if, for example, you go into a drugstore and you want to buy some liquor, or you need
Prescription medicine.
prescription medicine or whatever you need that has to do with ID and the confirmation of your majority, so that you've reached the age of majority here.
Banks have to accept it. If the bank is located in the city of Ann Arbor, it's fabulous.
What this is for new ordinances that people aren't necessarily familiar with until they're presented with somebody who says, well, it's a law, you have to accept my ID card. And they say, I've never heard of it before, I don't have to accept it. And you don't happen to have a copy of the ordinance with you at the time, which is kind of unwieldy. You could use an app on your phone, which basically is is a list of why this is the ordinance and why it needs to be accepted. And it's written in English, so it's very easy to understand. And and there's something else on it that's nice, and that is if somebody still doesn't believe it, there is a way to send the HRC information about who it is, so
Right,
they can
who-
be contacted, and so that we can have we
Right.
can,
So if everyone,
Educate.
right, pull up that site, it's a phone-optimized site at local-gov.id. If you've got the Washtenaw County ID and anyone questions it, the ordinance is right there, so people can enforce it themselves. That's what I really like. You know, it's, it's equally off-putting to need someone else to enforce your rights when the ordinance is, publicly available and easy to access. Also, I feel like it really brings the community together because we can communicate with folks, right, who have the ID. We can communicate about this ID. It is a wonderful idea, so wonderful, it might be useful to use the same format for other sort of ordinances that people need to reference.
Right.
Leslie was saying that people still are carrying a paper copy of the source of income of the, right, provisions in the non-discrimination ordinance because, landlords challenge it.
Yes, we've got a couple ordinances that people don't, that probably aren't widely seen or understood. And people who need housing especially. Yes, one of the things is a source of income, one of them is fair chance housing. And there may be another one that I thought there were four, and I can't remember what the fourth is, where they're fairly new, and people really need to be armed to say this, to be able to show quickly that this is in fact an ordinance that has been passed and that's part of their rights now. And so we might look at how well this app works and apply it elsewhere.
Helen, Matt, and Ryan, it's such a great idea. We can
Yes.
use it for different ordinances. I mean, I think it's wonderful.
Because having it on the books and having people not know about it
Right.
doesn't help protect rights. Pam?
And so a couple of things. Will there be, or is there currently in place, in addition to the URL that Judah mentioned, where individuals can access it utilizing a QR code?
QR code, everyone. Excellent, excellent.
Just asking.
Right, that would be a nice sticker, too.
Yeah.
Oh, that would,
Kudos to the persons that you mentioned
it's
who
on
were
the-
instrumental in getting you this far. And then what was the other question I was going to ask? Oh, so bringing up an old subject, not that it's necessarily old business, but you may recall that I've been pushing for us to do a public service announcement on
Yes.
CTN.
Yes.
So I'm going to
This would be a
recommend
good
that we
one.
pick that back up after our strategic planning meeting, because I'm sure
that's right.
I love it.
Brandon's going to
Yeah,
have some
it's a good
ideas
one.
about what we do and how we, set deadlines or dates for that being accomplished. But given what we've just discussed today, there are several items that would be absolutely critical that we make known to the public because it appears to be the best kept secret. Nobody knows. So I'm just going to put that out there
Good.
and
Good
say,
for
let's
you.
target that as a discussion point with the intent to move forward with it at the strategic planning meeting and then subsequently.
Okay,
Excellent,
so we're going to move on it.
excellent, excellent.
Excellent. We'll see how this works, and then we will see for other things, how we might be able to use it more broadly.
Oh, no question. Because I can't, I'm not going to ask folks to volunteer their time to do 5 or 6 different, would we approach the city about this separately from, and it would be separate and apart from the commission's budget? Who would we talk to about a budget to develop these sites that we just talked about?
We'd need to, I guess.
I don't know
I guess what we'd need
who we
is,
would approach.
when it's time, we will
Put it in the budget, yeah.
get we have to get some estimate of how much it would cost, and then we would we would send it to,
Okay, but not in the, we'll just do it
yes,
separately?
yes,
All right, great.
yes, I think
All
so,
right, great.
that would work. Okay.
I had like one question too. Keita, you mentioned there was like an event for the Washtenaw ID. Has that passed?
You mean the launch? Well, I thought, yes, there's going to be a launch, but after Margaret
Okay.
goes through and approves it.
Okay.
I just wanted
Right,
to make sure
this-
that wasn't like lost in
Yes,
the
this is our
calendars and all
soft
that.
launch.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That is excellent. Traffic stop resolution. This, I wanted to raise it because it's been 2 years since we talked about traffic stop data. And this month, toward the end of the month, ICPOC is going to finalize and hopefully approve their resolution to City Council that traffic stop data continue to be collected, and hopefully they will add and analyzed. You know, people think, well, we've gotten it, we've seen it, that's all we need. But things have changed since the traffic law, since we got the last results. We have now what is called, I think, the driving equality ordinance.
The drive safe? Oh, no.
No, this is, I think it's called driving equality, and it is the thing that prevents police from doing nuisance
Stops.
stops. And that should make a difference in the results of the data, but we want to know. And you don't know unless you unless you analyze the data. You can't analyze the data unless you have a resolution that ensures you're going to keep gathering it so that it's there when you need to analyze it, which may be in a year or so. So you'll see that coming up next month, because they don't have a finalized version yet. Our version probably should say something like, because we want to support ICPOC's resolution, but then add a few things about why it's also a human rights issue, and we care too. So you got a copy of the old resolution if you want to read it, but it's not final yet. We don't really know what it's going to say.
Sorry, I was confused. So this is a resolution that ICPOC is considering?
Yes, that's
But
what
they
that.
haven't passed yet?
They haven't passed it, and the circles show actually the changes that they're considering.
So who wrote the circles?
The circles were from
Dr. Carpia.
Dr. Karpiak, who is at Eastern University, who knows how, he ran the analysis a year ago.
Okay, so he's not on ICPOC?
He's not on
Okay,
ICPOC, but
he
he's the researcher who will do the
Okay.
analysis.
Okay, and sorry, can you remind me, so there was like a one-time data dump, but now they're trying to get ongoing transparent data publicly available?
That's right.
Okay.
And to do this well, you need more data than they have on their, they have a dashboard published. So I think that the police, we tried to talk to the police to find out what data they have, and they don't actually know. And so we're not comfortable. I mean, they put something on a dashboard, but it's not enough for good analysis. They really need to do the whole kinds of, and in fact, they need to collect more data than they're now collecting. Like, the data that they collected before only has to do with what happened at the traffic stop, but not necessarily what happened next. Like, were they arrested, were they?
The outcome of the
Which is the important thing, yes.
Right, yeah.
So, so there's some changes in the traffic stop data that we'd like, and there are, in fact, and there's some,
Do the police already, like, every time they do a traffic stop, they enter all the information somewhere, or how does it work?
they're not clear, and I'm not either.
Can it?
I mean, yes, it's somehow an automated process, but what is collected and what is collected and what is not collected
Right.
is interesting. It's collected by I think there's a vendor involved.
Oh, did you have more information?
Yeah, so they do have a database system that PD does use to collect that information, but the specific information in the drafted resolution that ICMOC is requesting is not all in that database, so they are requesting that information.
Right.
Okay, so like after an officer does a stop, then they have to put some information into some kind of database, but they're trying to get more. Okay.
There will be more coming, more information coming about that. Sarah, do you have anything that you'd like to talk about in terms of LGBTQ human rights?
Yeah, so I'm kind of waiting to hear back from city council members still, so I don't really have more to share than I did last month. Obviously, Lynn has a lot going on. Travis has not responded to any of my emails. Aisha said theoretically she's leaning toward waiting to move forward until the state building code is resolved. But I wanted to get a consensus from the city council members. So I don't know if there's a way to move that forward or
So
just
you're
wait.
focusing on the lavatory issue.
So there's two pieces, but I asked them for clarity on both in terms of, you know, I don't have the power to make the decision about whether to move those forward or not, so I kind of need their go-ahead to continue. So I don't know if it's worth, if those council members are kind of have a lot on their plate right now, if it's worth connecting with the rest of city council or what you all recommend or have thoughts about.
Questions? I'm interested, you're still looking at the issues that community is facing right now, is that right?
So we had done like a whole brainstorming process, and of course, there's, you know, all sorts of issues that are relevant. When you take into account folks' intersectional identity, you know, IDs are relevant, all sorts of, anything could be relevant. But we had kind of decided that we wanted to focus on bathroom bills and shield laws / sanctuary laws. So those were the two that I'd kind of been talking to Margie about.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm asking you because I know an awful lot's going on, and I wondered if you're picking up signs of other things that we should be looking at as you're talking to them about the main focus.
Yeah, I mean, I think those were the pieces that we wanted to move forward first. We talked last month about like conversion therapy and enforcing those bans and things like that, and I had connected with some other folks about that, and Trevor Project is in the
This would be
process
good for
of.
that, too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be interesting.
Because it would be easy for kids. I mean,
Yes.
fortunately, I don't know that we have a need, but it would be nice to just
You
have it
know what?
ready.
If
No?
just one person
That's
were to
right.
have that kind of need,
That's right,
that would be tragic.
that's
I
right.
mean, so, and we don't know, we just never have had, not had a complaint.
You know
Like,
what?
we don't know
Could
that
be very-
no one has had that need.
That is an interesting way to,
Yeah, it's a great idea.
okay. No questions? We'll move on. Contractor compliance.
So, I was sent the information in February, and I had to call Leslie today to find it. So I brought you an example of what we get. This is the actual data
Yep.
sent to us by purchasing that I will then compile and summarize and send to us. This is for 22 and 23, but actually comes into the first quarter of 24. So this is all of the contractors who do business with the city on a quarterly basis, anything greater than 25,000. Since we took up the responsibility, and it is part of our ordinance, to confirm and verify a number of things. How many are actual contractors in the city of Ann Arbor versus all of the others who may be outside? How many have contracts that exceed $1 million or more? And then 100,000 or more, so I've broken it up in that. And then, since we started this with it being part of the ordinance, the city has contracted with an individual, checking to see if I have that name, who will take over the responsibility of verifying that contractors are compliant with the NDO, our discrimination ordinance. What Leslie and I have done in the past, and we want to have a follow-up meeting with Colin Spencer, thank you. Because he had that responsibility solely, and now that has shifted. I believe, and I'm reading quickly, to see the name of the person, but at any rate, the city has hired someone else to perform some of the responsibilities of ensuring contractor compliance to our ordinance.
Point of information, is it a person or like a entity?
No, I'm actually reading the legislation details, and it's in here. I thought he mentioned the name. And that's what I was going to have read into the record.
Do you think it's a subordinate of his?
No, it's a specially created position that was charged with taking over a certain part of this.
I see.
And I thought I had printed it, I guess I didn't. But he mentioned it when he submitted the data for us to review. Let's see. Yep, here we go. Okay. I'll just read into the record what he has said. City purchasing will be taking a less prominent role with the NDO reporting in this report and in the future. Moving forward, the relatively newer city unit of Office of Organizational Equity, led by Laura Orta, ORTA, will be taking over primary responsibilities of this nearly annual report and will be working directly with the HRC. So there is a department and a specific individual who is going to be taking over this portion of the contractor compliance.
Okay.
So Leslie and I have tasked ourselves with setting up that meeting to follow through, because in our very limited efforts, when we first took on this responsibility, we found that at least 3, perhaps 4 of the contractors were non-compliant with posting the NDO. There are some other requirements that contractors are mandated by our ordinance to do. One is to make a good faith effort to try and hire locally. The other, which is probably a little bit more detailed and involved, is any federal contractors have an obligation to, so if any of these contractors are federal contractors, they have even more responsibility for being compliant with the NDO, not just posting and trying to make a good faith effort to hire locally, but they also have to do some additional reporting. So that is probably something we hope to have for either the next meeting or the strategic planning meeting, so that the goal is at this point to set up a meeting with either Colin or Laura Orta.
My guess is Laura will also be dealing with ban the box.
Yeah. So we have a number of things that we want to ensure our city is compliant with, especially as it relates to our ordinance. And then what efforts they have, documented efforts that they have to ensure compliance. Because, as I said before, Leslie and my limited efforts resulted in at least 3, perhaps 4, that are non-compliant with just posting.
Yes,
And it's not supposed to
even
be.
in our own city.
So here's the thing. Every employer who has at least 50 persons employed is mandated to post not only federal but state posters, and they have to be the latest version. Our NDO is right up there with that. So if they have a board or a place where that is conspicuously posted on their premises, they should be. There are penalties and fines that are severe for noncompliance.
Yes.
The same applies for our ordinance. So first, a meeting with the powers that be, and then how they're documenting or not, and then follow up to see where we are.
That'd be a meeting with Board Porter and the Office of Organizational Equity, and I believe the contact person who you would directly want to talk to is Tracy Bird.
Okay.
Yeah. And she came to the HRC meeting back in
Yes.
November, I want to say,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
Office of Organization.
Mm-hmm.
Can I see that?
Sure. It's just the email that was sent to Leslie, and she forwarded it to me.
Yeah. And therefore, we clearly need a different poster.
Yes, because of the things that we have subsequently added since it was last revised.
Yeah, but also because,
I think we asked for a separate poster though, right? I think we did for Ban the Box.
I think ban the box.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be a separate
Something
process.
separate and distinct, because
Yeah.
our poster, it tends to just, it's text, and it tends to just run on with, here are all the areas that
Well,
are.
our poster is focused on the employees of the contract, the city contractor, whereas the ban the box is on the company that hires the people. So you need a different, you've got a different audience.
Yeah. So I will compile this. It takes about an hour, because I cut and paste and put it, because it's literally like, it's lengthy.
I know.
And I need to read across to see the dollar amounts, and then whether they're Ann Arbor. What the report shows is overall and year over end is Ann Arbor receives the least percentage of the contracts that are available. And all of the ones that tend to be, I think just from last year to present, only one Ann Arbor contractor received a contract exceeding $1 million.
Just one,
Just one.
out of a universe of 10 or?
And they
80.
have anywhere
I think-
from,
No, you
Weren't
receiving.
there 80 on your list?
it depends. Every quarter it varies, but it's
Yeah.
anywhere between 50 and 75
No,
contracts.
I looked
Of
at it
over $1 million?
yesterday. It looked like it was 80.
No, there's usually only less than 10
Okay,
contracts
right.
quarterly that exceed $1 million.
Okay.
But of that 10,
Oh, I see.
in many instances, there's none that are Ann Arbor. In the one quarter, that I found that there was
Wow.
one.
Wow.
But you're talking about road construction, and you're talking
Well,
about,
still, but it raises the question of, what work are we doing in economic development so that, our folks who are contractors, whatever their industry is, can compete, do people
Yeah.
even know what the process is for qualifying,
yeah.
In our initial conversation with Colin, Leslie and mine, I asked those questions. Where are you recruiting? Where are you publishing the information? I even asked the question, how many are minority women business owners? How do you know what the makeup of their organization is? Because every employer with 50 or more employees is mandated to complete an EEO-1. I've said this before in previous meetings. And so it's very easy, by the way, it's due, because my company that I work for has to do one, right? Just like OSHA mandates that every employer must post an OSHA 300 log from February 1 to April 30th.
Right.
And it's a listing of all incidents or accidents with or without lost time. So it's easy enough to get this information from the contractors, because they're mandated to provide it to the various federal entities. It's easy enough for them to recruit locally by simply listing their jobs with unemployment. This isn't rocket science. It doesn't take a lot of time, but I don't see where we're making a good faith effort to even ensure that they're compliant. And that would be the focus of our efforts in meeting with these individuals to see what they're doing, where they're doing it, what are the results, and how are they confirming or verifying either compliance or not. So look for the summary next month of what has occurred through March of this year. And then you'll see the drill down of, total number of contractors, amount of the contractors exceeding 25,000, any that are in Ann Arbor, and there's another category.
That's wonderful.
You're going to do it by, for things 25,000 and above and
We only get-
50,000 and above. I mean,
Oh, we only get those that are over 20,000, 25,000.
Yeah, but
Right.
you might do,
But
you
I
might
can
break it
drill down
down
further,
Because
saying
my
there's,
guess is,
yeah, there's X number that are in 25 to 50.
and there are
Or-
some that are more
I do it for
likely to
those that are
be-
100,000 over, but I can make it smaller
yeah,
amounts.
doesn't have to be huge amount.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see some of those chunks because
Yeah.
it seems like some of them are more likely, are more, you wonder why they're not local if they're not.
The other piece that I've seen over the years that we've done this is the same repeat contractors.
Yeah, God. Yes, right.
So, we'll see.
That's interesting. Thank you very much, Pam.
You're welcome.
It's interesting. Can't wait.
There's a lot of work that we could do in this area.
Yeah,
It could make a real difference for folks. Small businesses
Yeah.
could really benefit.
Absolutely.
yeah. That is the end of the old business. Is there any new business?
I would actually like to lift up drive safe legislation that was introduced, I don't even know how many times.
Wait a minute, let's see if we, huh?
That would be communication. Do you want?
Not necessarily. It could be put on as new business, but,
Yeah, I thought,
but let's find out.
Okay.
Are there more? And well, let's just let's get a list of it first and then.
drive safe bill would be one.
Anything else? Then it's up to you, okay. Drive safe. Explain and tell them where you're at.
Okay, so for background, just in case folks haven't thought about this for a while, the Real ID Act that was passed back in the early 2000s severely restricted folks who could actually even apply for a driver's license, beginning with folks that don't have proof of legal presence in the United States. So prior to 2007, if you were a resident of Michigan, you could apply for a driver's license, be issued a driver's license, and work. Well, folks were, in 2008, the state of Michigan began to enforce its own version, restricting applications to state IDs and driver's licenses only to folks that had proof of legal presence in the country. There was even an attorney general ruling that folks without proof of legal presence couldn't be deemed residents. Yeah, challenging really the common sense definition of the word, right, resident. So as a result, now IDs, driver's licenses that folks would have had, it would have expired certainly the last 2011, 2012. So what are we talking about now? 11 or 12 years that Michigan residents have had to drive without a driver's license or have had to work without being able to drive.
Because they
Right.
couldn't
It's
prove
really,
residency.
it's imposed a hardship, and it's imposed a hardship on a community, whether people want to discuss it or not, have judgments about it or not. We're talking about a community that lifts up the entire economy of the state and supports different industries within it.
We're talking about the undocumented.
Undocumented
Those
folks.
are the people who
Right,
are
right.
not able, so they're driving without license.
Or not driving, or not driving, I
Or
don't know.
not driving, or
But I
can't
know
drive,
that-
and are not being able to work. I mean, there are lots of,
Right, or being
ramifications
subjected
to
to the state police and whatever that outcome might be. If folks are stopped for driving and they don't have a driver's license, I can only assume that people are still being issued tickets for that. But in any case, it flies in the face of what we know. We know that someone is a resident of a state because they live here. I know that when we first launched the Washtenaw ID, we did a survey, and over 80% of all folks who didn't have proof of legal presence had been here over 11 years. Right? This is home. And Drive Safe legislation was introduced, organized by We the People, and their bills basically that have gone through both houses, both the state legislature, both houses, and not been brought up for a vote. So every year, the bills have been reintroduced, and they don't make it out of committee, or they, never come up for a vote. It is now, I think, 3 years since the bills were first introduced, and we may lose the Democratic majority.
So they did not come up? and we
No,
did
they've not
vote on?
been, no, they've not received a vote,
Oh,
right? I did some calling, and it seems as if there's, I don't know what the nature of the reluctance, or there's certainly not from our Washtenaw County or Ann Arbor City representatives, but out in the state, reluctance to end the punitive, I guess, availability of driver's licenses still, and really zero in on federal residency as opposed to state residency. Go ahead.
so has it been reintroduced this year?
It's been reintroduced, yes, but again, not
But it hasn't been
brought
taken up?
No, and I spoke with a couple of folks and received an email from Jason Morgan, Representative Jason Morgan, his office, and they indicated that it was the reluctance of some legislators, even Democratic legislators, to issue driver's licenses. Just, it's a privilege people didn't want, I don't know why they're nervous to extend it. It does not resonate for me, so I can't really speak to it.
Yeah.
But I would like to see if our commission, maybe we could work with other human rights commissions in the state to see if we could lift up the economic reality of the work folks do, the contribution, and change our mindset, from one that's punitive to one that really
Have you talked
looks
to
at
anybody?
just driving.
Yeah.
Huh?
Have you talked to anybody at We the People? Because they've been very active and they've got a
Well, We
very
the-
good,
Yes, We the People, they're the
Education.
organizing folks.
yeah.
Yeah, I have not spoken directly with Maria, who I know and have worked with. She's a fabulous organizer. But I don't have organizing thoughts, I, of course, just want to participate in what they're doing and take whatever lifting we can do. But I was just thinking that we could network with other human rights,
Yes, we could.
right, commissions, and see what might be helpful for folks, for We the People and other organizations pushing this through. I think it's really important. I think, when you really talk about human rights, when we look at the entire state taking what I think is a really challenging position in terms of the definition of resident, and treating a driver's license, which is supposed to guarantee safety on the road, right? And using it as a political sort of whipping.
Well, there is a Democratic majority in this state for a little bit longer. It's
Right.
not going to last long.
Right.
If you're interested in this, we should act quickly.
So, quick question, Kate, the Drive Safe, legislation is designed to do what? Restore what was?
Okay, oh,
Yes, basically, it would amend the statute that
mandates
forbade
that you have to
folks.
prove residency.
Right.
Okay.
So that people who reside in the state in the physical sense could once
Don't-
again apply.
Okay.
The
for
last
driver's
time I
license.
looked, one house had a stipulation in it that it had to be so, that the person who could benefit from this would have to be a legal resident, have a legal presence in the United States. The other house said, did not have that. And I'm assuming that that's, you know, it's a main point, but that's where the problem is.
Right.
What's the objection?
That's,
I think I was saying, I can't present it in a logical or reasonable, right? I can't contextualize it because to me, it is not just inhumane, but unreasonable, right? But I know that,
I'm sorry.
oh, no, just to the extent that we have driver's licenses and driving exams and driving courses, it's about safety. And we are no longer pursuing what seems to me to be the humane, reasonable, safe course of action.
So something must have dictated this change, and I always like to understand the why. You know, what is it and then why? And so,
Well, I can tell you, back in 2007, the 9/11 Commission zeroed in on the fact that several of the hijacker terrorists obtained driver's licenses
okay.
from Virginia, I
Okay.
think. And I decided that, but for those driver's licenses, I don't know what, because honestly, you did not need to show a driver's license to, like, take pilot license, right, to fly a plane. You don't need to do it to take the pilot's exam, so.
I'm more curious than anything, some things that were enacted because of 9/11 that have changed what was, subsequently resulted in, if it was in place prior to, can now be grandfathered in subsequently. So I would be interested in exploring that if you were here prior to, you're grandfathered in subsequently.
That would help some folks, for sure, right? That would help some folks.
Yeah.
But this is a time when we're very afraid of immigrants. And, I mean, I don't know if it would be that easy, but it would be nice.
Not saying it is, again, I'm going
Yeah.
back to what and why,
Right.
you know, and then if we can show the fallout that is harming, we can maybe make a good faith effort in determining, here are individuals who've been here for whatever period of time, you know, law-abiding citizens contributing to the economy, you've now cut yourself off from that. Money talks,
Yes.
That's
right? So,
So what can we do as the HRC? What's in our scope?
One of the things we could do, I think we'd have more power if we combined with other human rights commissions or other people, but probably go to we the people and find out what they want us to, you know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely,
Find
because
out.
we don't have a strategy. We
No.
don't have a legislative strategy.
And they did.
Right, I was just saying, because the state senators and representatives who are stalling are not in our jurisdiction.
do we know if
We
those
would
who
have to-
are in our jurisdiction support this?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Can we ask them to rally their fellow senators and representatives? And
I'll talk with We the People. I am sure, because they're such good organizers. I'm sure they've already covered that.
Okay.
It's the holdouts and trying to come up with strategies, I guess, or connecting with folks who might have influence over them, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, I will talk with Maria and see if there's anything in particular they would like us to do, and go from there.
Okay.
Are you interested in at least looking at the arguments?
Yeah, I'd
this?
like to see it, so I know what I'm dealing with. I don't want to work blind.
I can send you, the
Yeah.
You saw some
And what I'm
information
thinking-
last year about it.
Okay, but what I'm thinking is we contact the students to ask them to do things for us periodically. That sounds like a good
It does, yes.
tool
Project.
or tactic or project that they may want to take on, right? Or assist we the people with.
Right.
You know, either contacting the legislatures, all of them, and saying, what is your position on
Sure.
this? And can we invite you to support this? I'm sure they're not looking for work, but we have plenty, and we have limited resources, so that seems to me to be the next best potential resource. And then, you know, finding out, so I want to know what I'm dealing with before I jump out there and say we
Oh,
need to do
sure.
something, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I just wanted to lift this on to sort of the, onto our immediate emergent radar, because we may lose the democratic control over the House and Senate, and, you know, then how long will it take for folks to get driver's
This
licenses?
is a narrow possible,
Right.
first time in 40 years, kind of.
Yeah. Well, look at it, it took 40
But
years,
thanks,
right?
everyone.
Huh?
Thank you.
Said it took 40 years to get here, so.
I know. It might be another 40 years if we don't watch it. Okay, so at least we can, should we just touch base on it next time? At our next meeting?
Oh, and hopefully by then I'll have talked to Maria and gotten more information.
Thank you very much for your looking into that. Anything else before we adjourn? Then can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting you guys.
Yes.
Good to see everyone.
So short. It's been a while.